Subscribe to Infidelity Tales Lab. Now let's begin. The afternoon sun filtered through the kitchen window as Derek Floyd watched his son Billy stack colored blocks on the living room carpet. 7 years old, with a mop of brown hair and his mother's hazel eyes, Billy hummed a tune from some cartoon as he built his tower. Derek smiled, sipping his coffee. These quiet moments had become precious. "Hiya, Dad. Watch," Billy called out, balancing another block. Derek set down his mug and walked over. "That's impressive, buddy. Just be careful." The tower swayed. Billy reached to steady it, but his hand froze mid-air. Derek's smile vanished. He knew the signs now. Billy's eyes glazed over, his body went rigid, and then the convulsion started. Derek was already moving, easing his son onto his side, clearing space around him, checking his watch. 43 seconds. Not the worst, but bad enough. When Billy's body finally relaxed, Derek held him close. "You're okay. I've got you." Billy's voice came out small and confused. "Did it happen again?" "Yeah, kiddo. But you're safe." This was their life now. Had been for 2 years since Billy's first grand mal seizure at a birthday party. The diagnosis, juvenile myoclonic epilepsy. The prognosis, manageable with medication, likely to improve with age. The reality, unpredictable episodes that terrified his son and broke Derek's heart every single time. Anna Floyd rushed in from the garage, grocery bag still in hand. "Baby, are you all right?" She dropped everything and knelt beside them. "I'm okay, Mom," Billy mumbled, though his eyes were heavy. Derek met his wife's gaze. 13 years of marriage, and he could still read every emotion on her face. The worry, the exhaustion, the guilt, though she had nothing to feel guilty about. "Let's get you to the couch, buddy," Derek said, lifting Billy easily. At 6'2", and still in fighting shape despite leaving the Army 5 years ago, Derek had no trouble carrying his son. Anna gathered the scattered blocks while Derek settled Billy with his favorite blanket. Within minutes, the boy was asleep. Post-seizure fatigue was normal. "That's 3 this week," Anna whispered. "I'll call Dr. Morrison. Maybe we need to adjust his meds again." Anna nodded, but her attention drifted to her phone, which had been buzzing incessantly. She frowned at the screen. "Everything okay?" Derek asked. "It's my brother. He's been texting all morning. Wants to come by this weekend." Derek's jaw tightened imperceptibly. Christoph Wallace, Anna's younger brother by 3 years, a perpetual child at 34 who'd never held a real job for more than 6 months. Christoph had moved back to their hometown of Charlotte 2 years ago after making it big in Los Angeles, which translated to burning through his trust fund and returning home broke. "What does he want?" Anna sighed. "He says he wants to spend time with Billy. Be a better uncle." Derek wanted to say no. Wanted to tell Anna that her brother was a narcissistic leech who only showed up when he needed something. But he saw the hope in her eyes. She loved her brother, despite everything. "Fine, but just for a few hours." What Derek didn't know was that Christoph Wallace had recently discovered TikTok and was desperately hunting for his next viral moment. 3 days later, Christoph Wallace sat in his cramped apartment, scrolling through his phone with increasing frustration. His latest TikTok, a prank video where he pretended to slip on ice, had gotten 47 views. 47. His ex-girlfriend's cat videos got thousands. At 34, Christoph had convinced himself he was meant for fame. In LA, he tried stand-up comedy, bombed, acting, one commercial for hemorrhoid cream, and YouTube gaming, never broke 100 subscribers. He'd returned to Charlotte defeated, living off his parents' guilt money while working part-time at a sporting goods store. But TikTok was different. TikTok was the future. He just needed the right content. Something shocking. Something real. Something that would make people stop scrolling. His phone buzzed. Tracy, his girlfriend of 8 months, texted, "You still coming to dinner at your sister's tomorrow?" Christoph had forgotten. He typed back, "Yeah, looking forward to it." Tracy Wallace, née Doyle, was 31 and worked as a dental hygienist. She'd met Christoph at a bar 6 months after her divorce, drawn to his charisma and dreams of stardom. Lately, though, his obsession with social media fame had started to wear on her. The next evening, Christoph and Tracy arrived at Derek and Anna's house in the suburbs. It was a modest 3-bedroom ranch, but it was paid off, Derek had been smart with his military benefits and his current job as an inventory manager for a logistics company. Uncle Chris. Billy ran to the door, his smile wide. Christoph scooped him up. Hey, little man, you getting big? Derek watched from the kitchen doorway, arms crossed. Something about the way Christoph's eyes lingered on Billy, calculating and opportunistic, set off alarms in Derek's head. Old instincts from his intelligence days. Dinner was pleasant enough. Anna had made lasagna, and Billy chattered about school. Derek noticed Christoph checking his phone repeatedly under the table. So, Chris, Derek said evenly, Anna mentioned you're really into social media now. Christoph's face lit up. Yeah, man. TikTok is insane. You can blow up overnight. I'm working on my content strategy, building my brand. 47 views is quite a brand, Derek said, his tone neutral. Christoph's smile faltered. You looked at my page? Anna showed me. The table went quiet. Tracy shifted uncomfortably. It takes time to build an audience, Christoph said defensively. But when I find the right content, it's over. I'm gonna explode. After dinner, while Anna and Tracy cleaned up, Christoph asked to see Billy's room. Derek almost said no, but Anna gave him a look that said be nice. Billy eagerly led his uncle upstairs. Derek followed a minute later, standing in the hallway. Through the cracked door, he watched Christoph looking around Billy's room with that same calculating expression. You got any cool toys, Billy? I got Legos, and Dad got me this awesome microscope. Cool. Hey, your mom said you have some medical thing? Seizures? Billy's enthusiasm dimmed. Yeah, sometimes my brain goes weird and I shake. But it's okay. Dad always helps me. Does it happen a lot? Sometimes. Christoph nodded slowly, and Derek saw him glance at his phone in his pocket. That's when Derek knew. He couldn't explain how. Maybe it was his training. Maybe it was paternal instinct. But he knew Christoph was planning something. The following Tuesday, Derek was at work when Anna called. Her voice was tight with controlled panic. Derek, you need to come home. He was already grabbing his keys. What happened? Is Billy? He's fine. Physically. But Derek, there's something you need to see. 20 minutes later, Derek walked into their house to find Anna on the couch. Her face pale, laptop open beside her. Billy was at school. Anna had specifically waited until he was gone. Christoph posted a video, she said quietly. On TikTok, Derek sat down and looked at the screen. The video was titled Demon Possession Caught on Camera. Face screaming in fear, ogre, hashtag scary, hashtag possessed, hashtag real. His blood went cold. The video showed Billy having a seizure. It was from this past Sunday. Christoph must have filmed it through the window when Billy had an episode in the backyard. The footage was edited with ominous music, dramatic zoom-ins, and text overlays like watch his eyes and body completely taken over. The view count, 1.2 million, and climbing. Derek's hands clenched into fists, but his voice remained eerily calm. When did you find this? An hour ago. Another mom from Billy's school texted me. Derek, the comments. Anna's voice broke. Derek scrolled through them. Thousands of people calling his son demon-possessed, making jokes, suggesting exorcisms. Some were genuine concern, but most were treating it as entertainment. I've been trying to reach Christoph, Anna said. He won't answer. Derek pulled out his own phone and called. Voicemail. He tried Tracy. She answered on the third ring. Tracy, it's Derek. Where's Christoph? He's at work, why? You haven't seen what he posted? There was a pause. Posted what? Derek explained. He heard Tracy gasp, then a long silence. Oh my God. I didn't know. Derek, I swear, I had no idea. Tell him to take it down. Now. I will. I'm so sorry. Derek hung up. He looked at Anna. I'm handling this. What are you going to do? First, I'm getting this video removed. Then I'm dealing with Christoph. But it was too late. By the time Christoph finally took down the video 8 hours later, after Tracy threatened to leave him, it had 3.8 million views. Dozens of accounts had already downloaded and re-uploaded it. The internet had its hooks in Billy's private medical moment. The next morning, Derek drove Billy to school. His son was quieter than usual. Dad, some kids were being weird yesterday. Weird how? They kept asking if I was possessed. I don't know what that means. Derek's grip on the steering wheel tightened. Someone posted a video of you online without permission. Some people don't understand what seizures are, so they said silly things. Oh, Billy was quiet for a moment. Am I in trouble? No, buddy. You did nothing wrong. The person who posted the video is in trouble. That afternoon, Derek received a call from Billy's school. Principal Morrison's voice was sympathetic but firm. Mr. Floyd, we need to discuss Billy's situation. Several students have been, let's say, unkind. We're addressing it, but I wanted you to be aware. How unkind? Name-calling. Questions about demons and possession. We've spoken to the children involved and contacted their parents. Thank you. We appreciate your help. But Derek knew how kids were, how the internet was. This wouldn't just go away. That evening, Derek drove to Christoph's apartment. Tracy answered the door, her eyes red from crying. He's not here, she said quietly. Where is he? I don't know. He left after I confronted him. Derek, I'm so sorry. I never thought he'd. Is he planning to post more videos? Tracy's silence was answer enough. Tracy, I need you to be honest with me. What did he say? She looked away. He said this was his big break, that he gained 50,000 followers in one day. That brand were already reaching out. He wanted to do a follow-up video, maybe an interview with Billy about being possessed. Derek's jaw clenched. And what did you say? I told him he was sick. That what he did was wrong. He said I didn't understand content creation, that this was just how the internet worked. Tracy wiped her eyes. I can't be with someone who would exploit a child like that, especially family. Derek nodded. If he contacts you, tell him he's no longer welcome around my family. Over the next week, things escalated. Christoph posted 3 more videos, old footage from family gatherings where Billy had seizures. Each one edited with sensational titles and horror movie sound effects. Demon Child Strikes Again. The Possession Continues. Satan's Spawn Part 3. Combined, the videos accumulated over 5 million views. Billy started having nightmares. Kids at school wouldn't sit near him at lunch. Someone spray-painted demon on their mailbox. Anna cried herself to sleep. And Derek stayed calm. He didn't yell, didn't threaten, didn't confront Christoph again. Instead, he started making phone calls to old friends, people he'd served with, people with particular skills. Because Derek Floyd had a secret that Anna didn't fully know about, that her brother certainly didn't know about. During his 12 years in the Army, Derek hadn't been a regular soldier. He'd been in military intelligence, specializing in information warfare and psychological operations. He'd run disinformation campaigns, tracked terrorist networks online, and knew how to weaponize data. He'd left that world behind when Billy was born, wanting a normal life for his family. But Christoph Wallace had just made a critical mistake. He'd threatened Derek's son, and Derek Floyd knew exactly how to make people disappear, digitally speaking. Late that night, Derek sat in his home office, 3 monitors glowing in the darkness. He cracked his knuckles and got to work. The first domino fell on a Tuesday morning. Christoph woke up to find all his social media accounts gone. TikTok, Instagram, Twitter, Facebook, all suspended or deleted. His 127,000 new TikTok followers vanished. His viral videos gone. He frantically contacted support for each platform, but received the same automated response. Your account has been permanently suspended for violations of our community guidelines and terms of service. This is bullshit, he screamed at his phone. I didn't violate anything. But he had. Derek had spent the past 2 weeks creating a digital trail that made it appear Christoph had been engaging in coordinated inauthentic behavior, running bot networks, and posting content that violated multiple platform policies. Every report came from different IP addresses, different countries, different times of day. The platform's algorithms had no choice but to flag and remove his accounts. Christoph tried creating new accounts. Each one was banned within hours. He didn't connect it to Derek. He assumed it was random, or jealous rivals, or glitches. He had no idea he was being hunted. The second domino fell 3 days later. Christoph's boss at the sporting goods store, Roy Banks, called him into the office. Chris, we need to talk. If this is about me taking that sick day. It's not. I received some concerning information about you. Roy pulled up several documents on his computer. Police reports from Los Angeles. Restraining orders. Accusations of harassment from 2 different women. None of it was real. All of it was meticulously fabricated by Derek and verified through contacts who knew how to make digital paper trails look authentic. "This is insane," Christoph stammered. "Those aren't, I never." "Chris, the company has a zero-tolerance policy for this kind of behavior. We have to protect our staff and customers." "But they're fake. Someone's setting me up." "I'm sorry, but we're going to have to let you go." Christoph left the store in a daze, his mind racing. First his social media, now his job. What the hell was happening? The third domino fell that evening. 2 Charlotte-Mecklenburg police officers knocked on his apartment door. "Christoph Wallace?" "Yes. We need you to come down to the station to answer some questions." "About what?" "We've received reports of illegal content distribution involving a minor." Christoph's face went white. "What?" "No, it was my nephew. It was just videos of his seizures." "Sir, we need you to come with us." At the station, detectives showed him evidence of his TikTok videos being downloaded and shared on forums dedicated to exploitation content. They showed him North Carolina's laws regarding the unauthorized distribution of images of minors. They showed him that several people had filed complaints. What they didn't tell him was that many of those complaints came from fake identities created by Derek, strategically filed to trigger mandatory police investigation. "I didn't do anything illegal," Christoph insisted. "I took them down. My sister gave me permission to film at their house." "Did she give you permission to film her son having medical episodes and post them as demon possession content?" It was just for entertainment." "For content." The detective leaned back. "Mr. Wallace, even if charges aren't filed, you should know that several organizations that monitor child exploitation online have flagged your content. That's a permanent digital footprint." They released him after 6 hours, but the damage was done. Word spread. Neighbors looked at him differently. His landlord received an anonymous tip about potential illegal activity in the building. Tracy refused to see him. His parents, after seeing the videos for themselves, told him he needed to figure his life out and cut off his monthly allowance. Christoph was drowning, and he didn't even know Derek was the one holding him underwater. While Christoph's life imploded, Derek focused on his son. Billy's school situation had improved dramatically after Derek met with the principal and suggested an educational assembly about epilepsy. He'd contacted the Epilepsy Foundation, who sent a representative to talk to Billy's class. The kids learned that seizures weren't scary or supernatural. They were just misfiring neurons in the brain. Billy came home that day with a smile. "Dad, everyone was really nice today. Mason even said seizures are kind of cool because the brain is like a computer glitching." Derek hugged his son tight. "That's great, buddy." But the trauma wasn't gone. Billy still had nightmares. Still flinched when kids got too loud. Still asked questions like, "Why did Uncle Chris do that to me?" Anna was torn. She loved her brother despite everything, but what he'd done was unforgivable. She'd stopped taking his calls. "I keep thinking I failed somehow," she said one night. "Like I should have seen this coming." Derek held her. "You loved your brother. That's not a failure. He's the one who failed. What you said to him that day at his apartment. I know you, Derek. You did something, didn't you?" Derek was quiet for a long moment. "I protected our family. By destroying him. By making sure he couldn't hurt Billy again. Or anyone else's child." Anna searched his face. "Should I be scared of you? Only if you post videos of our son having seizures for likes on the internet." She almost smiled. Almost. 3 weeks after the first video was posted, Derek received a message through an encrypted app. It was from Joey Kelly, an old Army buddy who now worked in private cybersecurity. "Package delivered. Trails clean." Derek deleted the message. The package was the final phase of his plan. Over the past month, Derek had done more than just destroy Christoph's online presence and get him fired. He'd build an entire digital persona that would follow Christoph forever. Every future employer who Googled Christoph Wallace would find carefully planned articles and forum posts about his exploitation of his nephew. Future dates would discover reviews from exes warning about his narcissistic behavior. Apartment complexes would see his history of being evicted, false records expertly forged. Banks would note his terrible credit history. legitimately terrible, but Derek had made sure every creditor knew about it. Derek had turned Christoph into a digital ghost, someone who existed but couldn't fully participate in modern society. But Derek wasn't done. One Saturday morning, Derek drove to a coffee shop across town. He sat in the corner booth, sipping black coffee, and waited. 20 minutes later, Michael Sellers walked in. 53, graying hair, wearing a suit that said lawyer, even before he introduced himself. Mr. Floyd, Derek stood and shook his hand. Thank you for meeting me. Michael Sellers was a civil attorney who specialized in privacy violations and exploitation cases. Derek had done his homework. Sellers had successfully sued several content creators for similar violations. You mentioned on the phone this involves your son? Sellers asked. Derek laid out the situation, showed him the videos, the comments, the evidence of Billy's trauma, the medical records showing increased seizure frequency after the bullying started. Sellers reviewed everything carefully. This is egregious. We can absolutely pursue a civil suit. Unauthorized use of a minor's image, infliction of emotional distress, invasion of privacy. North Carolina law is very clear on this. I want more than money, Derek said quietly. I want legal consequences that follow him. A judgment that shows up on background checks. Court-ordered therapy. A permanent record that he exploited a child. Sellers nodded. We can make that happen. Though I should mention, given your brother-in-law's current financial situation, collecting damages might be difficult. I don't care about the money. I care about the record. Then let's proceed. Christoph received the lawsuit papers on a rainy Thursday. He was living in a motel by then, having been evicted from his apartment. No job, no social media presence, no prospects. His parents had disowned him. Tracy had blocked his number. He read through the legal documents with shaking hands. Derek Floyd was suing him for $500,000 in damages. $500,000, he whispered. I don't have $500,000. He tried calling Anna. Blocked. He tried messaging her on every platform. Blocked everywhere. In desperation, he drove to Derek's house. It was late afternoon, and he saw Billy playing in the backyard with Derek. His nephew looked happy, laughing as Derek pushed him on the swing set. Christoph got out of his car and walked to the fence. Anna, he called out. Anna, I need to talk to you. Derek stopped pushing the swing. He said something to Billy, who ran inside. Then Derek walked slowly to the fence. You need to leave, Derek said calmly. I need to talk to my sister. She doesn't want to talk to you. This lawsuit is insane. I can't pay this. You're destroying my life over some stupid videos. Derek's expression didn't change. Some stupid videos? Is that what you think you did? I made a mistake, okay? I'm sorry, but this is too much. You've ruined everything. I ruined everything. Derek's voice remained level, almost conversational. Christoph, do you know what Billy said to me 2 weeks ago? He asked if it was his fault, if he was bad because his brain doesn't work right. He's 7 years old, and you made him think he was broken. I didn't mean. You used my son's medical condition to get followers on TikTok. You turned his trauma into entertainment. You exposed him to millions of strangers. And when people started calling him demon-possessed, when kids at school bullied him, when he tried to, Derek stopped, his jaw clenching. You didn't think about any of that, did you? Christoph shifted uncomfortably. Look, I know I messed up, but you've taken everything from me. My job, my apartment, my accounts. Actions have consequences. This is more than consequences. This is revenge. You're destroying me. Derek leaned closer to the fence. No, Christoph. I'm making sure you can never do this to another child. That lawsuit, it's going to follow you forever. Every background check, every job application, every Google search. People will know what you did. You can't do this to me. I'm family. You stopped being family when you used my son for content. Anna appeared at the back door. Chris, you need to go. Anna, please. Go. Now, before I call the police. Christoph looked between his sister and Derek, realizing he had no allies left. No one on his side. He'd burned every bridge. He left without another word. The lawsuit moved forward. Christoph couldn't afford a lawyer, so a public defender was assigned for the initial proceedings. The case was straightforward. Christoph had no defense. He'd filmed and posted the videos without consent, exploiting a minor's medical condition for profit. He'd made $3,200 from the videos before they were removed. The judge was not sympathetic. "Mr. Wallace, you exploited your 7-year-old nephew's neurological disorder for social media fame. You exposed this child to ridicule, harassment, and psychological trauma. You violated his privacy and dignity in the most fundamental way." The judgment was entered: $500,000 in damages, plus court-ordered community service at a children's hospital, mandatory therapy, and a permanent restraining order preventing Christoph from coming within 500 feet of Billy or posting any content involving minors without explicit written consent from parents or guardians. The judgment would follow Christoph for life. Any employer, landlord, or romantic partner who did a background check would see it. Derek had won, completely and totally, but he wasn't satisfied yet. 6 months later, Christoph Wallace was working as a night janitor at a warehouse. It was the only job he could get with his record. He lived in a studio apartment in a rough part of town, barely making rent. His TikTok dreams were dead. His social media presence obliterated. His family gone. Tracy had married someone else. His parents sent birthday cards, but didn't invite him to holidays. He lost everything. One night, as he mopped floors in the empty warehouse, his phone buzzed. An unknown number. He almost didn't answer, but curiosity got the better of him. "Hello, Christoph Wallace?" The voice was unfamiliar. "Yeah, who's this?" "My name is Eugene Chapman. I'm a producer for a documentary series about internet culture and its consequences. I'd like to talk to you about being interviewed." Christoph's heart leaped. Maybe this was his chance. A way back into the spotlight. "What kind of documentary?" "We're exploring cases where content creators crossed ethical lines. Your case with your nephew has been cited in several academic papers about digital exploitation. We think your story could help educate people." Yeah, I'd be interested." They arranged a meeting. Christoph showed up at the production office downtown, hopeful for the first time in months. Eugene Chapman was 47, professional, with a crew of cameramen and sound technicians. The interview started gently. Background questions, his motivations, his career aspirations. Then the questions got harder. "When you saw Billy having a seizure, what made you think to film it? Do you understand why what you did was harmful? Have you attempted to contact Billy or his family? Do you believe you deserve forgiveness?" Christoph answered honestly, thinking this was his redemption arc. A chance to show growth, remorse, rehabilitation. The documentary aired 3 months later. It was titled Digital Predators: When Content Crosses the Line. Christoph's segment was devastating. The editors had interspersed his interview with footage of Billy's videos, blurred for privacy, expert commentary from child psychologists explaining the trauma, and a statement from Derek and Anna about the impact on their family. Christoph came across exactly as he was. Narcissistic, self-pitying, more concerned with his ruined career than the child he'd harmed. The documentary went viral. News outlets picked it up. Christoph's name became synonymous with everything wrong with influencer culture. What Christoph didn't know, what he would never know, was that Eugene Chapman didn't exist. The production company was a front. The documentary was real, produced by an actual filmmaker, but the whole project had been commissioned and anonymously funded by Derek Floyd. Derek had given Christoph one last chance to destroy himself, and Christoph had taken it eagerly. 2 years after the first video was posted, Billy Floyd was 9 years old. His seizures had decreased significantly. His neurologist said he might outgrow them completely by adolescence. He was thriving in school, had good friends, and rarely thought about the TikTok videos anymore. Derek and Anna were stronger than ever. The trauma had tested their marriage, but they'd come through it. Anna had reconciled, partially, with her parents. She'd never spoken to Christoph again. One Saturday, Derek took Billy to a comic book convention downtown. As they browsed the vendor booths, Billy tugged his father's sleeve. "Dad, is that Uncle Chris?" Derek followed his son's gaze. Across the convention floor, cleaning up trash, wearing a staff t-shirt, was Christoph. He'd gained weight, looked older than his 36 years, and moved with the defeated posture of someone who'd given up on dreams. "Yeah, buddy, that's him. Should we say hi?" Derek knelt down to Billy's level. Do you want to? Billy thought about it. No, I don't think so. Okay, want to check out the Spider-Man booth? Yeah. As they walked away, Derek glanced back once. Kristoff hadn't seen them. He was just another anonymous worker in a crowd, invisible and forgotten. Exactly where Derek wanted him. That night, after Billy was asleep, Derek sat in his home office. He opened an encrypted folder on his computer, the only record of everything he'd done. The hacking, the fake reports, the planted evidence, the documentary setup. He reviewed it all one more time, making sure there were no traces that could ever lead back to him. Then he deleted everything. Wiped the drives. Destroyed the burner phones he'd used. Eliminated every piece of evidence. Anna appeared in the doorway. Working late. Just finishing up some things. He closed the laptop. All done now. She studied him. I know you did more than you've told me. I don't need to know what. But Derek, are you okay? With all of it? Derek considered the question. Was he okay with what he'd done? The lying, the manipulation, the systematic destruction of another human being? He hurt our son, Derek said simply. Made him feel like a monster. Used his medical condition to get famous. I made sure he could never do that again. To Billy or anyone else's kid. And that makes it okay. It makes it necessary. Anna walked over and kissed his forehead. I love you. And I'm glad Billy has you protecting him. Just don't lose yourself in the process. I won't, Derek promised. But as Anna left, Derek sat alone in the darkness, thinking about the man he'd become. The skills he'd promised himself he'd never use again. The line he'd crossed. He thought about Kristoff living his small, ruined life. Never knowing who had orchestrated his downfall. Never understanding the full extent of what Derek had done. And Derek felt no guilt. Because at the end of the day, Billy was safe. Happy. Thriving. And Kristoff Wallace would never hurt another child again. That was what mattered. That was what made it all worth it. Derek Floyd had gone to war for his son. And he'd won. Sometimes he thought, that's all a father can do. 3 years later, Billy was 12. The seizures had stopped completely. Just as the doctors predicted, he'd outgrown them. He was on the middle school robotics team and wanted to be an engineer when he grew up. He barely remembered the TikTok videos. When he thought of that time at all, it was distant, like something that had happened to someone else. One afternoon, he found Derek in the garage, organizing tools. Hey, Dad, can I ask you something? Sure, buddy. Whatever happened to Uncle Chris? I heard Grandma mention him at Christmas, but nobody talks about him. Derek set down the wrench he was holding. Your uncle made some bad choices. Hurt people. He's living his own life now, away from the family. Do you think people can change? Like if they do something really bad, can they become good again? Derek thought about this. About Kristoff, last he'd heard, still working minimum wage jobs, still alone, still paying off the lawsuit in tiny monthly installments that would take decades. I think people can change, Derek said carefully. But change requires wanting to be better. Requires taking responsibility. Some people aren't capable of that. Was Uncle Chris capable? No, Derek said honestly. I don't think he was. Billy nodded, accepting this. I'm glad I have you as my dad. Derek pulled his son into a hug. I'm glad I have you as my son. Later that night, Derek received an email. It was from Tracy Doyle. She'd remarried and taken her new husband's name, but she'd reached out through mutual contact. The email was brief. Derek, I wanted you to know that Kristoff tried to contact me last month. Wanted money for a lawyer to appeal the judgment. I said no. I also wanted to thank you. I didn't understand at the time what you were doing, but I do now. You didn't just punish him. You made sure he couldn't hurt anyone else. There are probably kids out there who are safer because you stopped him. I hope Billy is well. Tell Anna I'm sorry I didn't stand up to Kristoff sooner. Tracy. Derek deleted the email and cleared his trash folder. He walked upstairs and checked on Billy, who was asleep with a robotics magazine on his chest. Derek moved it carefully and pulled up the blanket. In the next room, Anna was reading in bed. Everything okay? She asked. Everything's perfect, Derek said. And it was because Derek Floyd had learned something important in those dark months. That protecting the people you love sometimes requires becoming someone you never thought you'd be. That justice and revenge aren't always different things. That the world is full of predators who will exploit the vulnerable. And sometimes the only way to stop them is to become more dangerous than they are. He'd crossed lines, broken laws, destroyed a man's life, and he'd do it all again without hesitation. Because at the end of everything, Billy was safe. And that was all that mattered. Derek turned off the lights and went to sleep. No nightmares, no regrets. Just the quiet satisfaction of a father who'd protected his son from a monster, even if he'd had to become a monster himself to do it. And there you have it. Another story comes to an end. What did you think? I'd love to hear your thoughts in the comments below. If you enjoy this story, consider joining our community by subscribing. It means the world to us. For more stories like this one, check out the recommended videos on screen. And I'll see you there. Subscribe to Infidelity Tales Lab. Now, let's begin. Gregory Harper had learned long ago that some battles couldn't be won with fists or raised voices. The best victories came from patience, planning, and letting your enemies hang themselves with their own rope. He'd built a successful career as a forensic accountant on that principle. And now, watching his 6-year-old daughter Emma practice her lines in the bathroom mirror, he was about to apply it to his personal life. "I'm not mad, Grandma," Emma repeated, her small face serious in the reflection. "Look what I got myself." "Perfect. Sweetheart." Gregory leaned against the doorframe, his daughter's backpack clutched in his hand. Inside was something that would change everything, though only he knew it yet. "Remember, no matter what they say or do, you smile. Can you do that?" Emma turned, her dark eyes, his eyes meeting his with understanding beyond her years. "Like you taught me, smile when they think they've won. That's my girl." 3 years of marriage to Michelle Sherman had taught Gregory more about cruelty disguised as family than he'd ever wanted to know. Michelle herself wasn't malicious, just weak. Weak in the face of her mother Victoria's cutting remarks, her father Dennis's dismissive sneers, her sister Tabitha's barely concealed contempt. They'd made their opinion clear from day one. Gregory Harper, son of a factory worker and a nurse, wasn't good enough for their precious Michelle. The fact that Gregory now earned 3 times what Dennis pulled in from his failing real estate ventures didn't matter. The fact that Gregory had paid off Michelle's student loans, bought their house outright, and funded her pottery hobby didn't register. To the Shermans, he would always be cheap blood, their favorite phrase, delivered with Victoria's signature laugh that sounded like glass breaking. He'd endured it for Michelle's sake. She loved her family, despite everything, and he loved her. But they'd made their mistake when they extended their cruelty to Emma. "Dad?" Emma's voice pulled him back. "Are you okay?" Gregory knelt down, meeting her at eye level. "You know what I realized, Em? I spent 3 years trying to be good enough for people who will never think anyone is good enough. But you know who matters? You. Your mom. That's it. And you matter too, Dad." He pulled her into a hug, this fierce little human who'd inherited his spine. "Get your coat. It's showtime." The drive to the Sherman estate took 40 minutes, winding through neighborhoods where the houses grew larger and the hearts smaller. Michelle sat in the passenger seat, unusually quiet. She knew something was coming. Gregory had been different these past few weeks, calmer, almost serene. It was the calm that worried her. "Greg," she started, then stopped. Whatever you're planning, please don't make a scene. It's Christmas Eve." "I'm not planning anything, Michelle. I'm just bringing our daughter to see her grandparents." He kept his eyes on the road, his voice even. "Though I do have to wonder, how many years does a person have to prove themselves before they're considered family?" Michelle's silence was answer enough. The Sherman house sprawled across 2 acres, all stone and glass and imported everything. Dennis had bought it during the real estate boom, right before the market crashed. Gregory knew because he quietly reviewed the public records that Dennis was underwater on the mortgage, bleeding money every month to maintain appearances. But appearances were all the Shermans had left. Cars already filled the circular driveway. Tabitha's Range Rover, Victoria's Mercedes, Jordan Browning's BMW, Tabitha's husband, a patent attorney who shared the Shermans' love of looking down on others. The whole clan had gathered for their annual Christmas Eve performance, where they distributed expensive gifts and reminded each other how superior they were. Emma took Gregory's hand as they walked to the door. Her small backpack bounced against her shoulders. Inside was a snow globe she'd bought with her allowance money, a cheap plastic thing from the drugstore with a penguin inside. She'd chosen it herself, wrapped it in newspaper comics, because they couldn't afford wrapping paper this month. The medical bills from Mikkel's surgery had cleaned them out temporarily, though Gregory had kept that from the Shermans. They'd only use it as ammunition. But that snow globe wasn't why they were here. The real gift, Gregory's gift, was tucked in his jacket pocket, a flash drive containing 3 years of financial documents, recorded conversations, and enough evidence to turn the Shermans' world inside out. He'd been gathering it slowly, carefully. Every dinner where they mocked him, he recorded. Every loan Dennis had asked for just until the market turns, documented. Every tax return they'd filed fraudulently. Every contractor they'd cheated. Every lie they told to maintain their image, he had it all. Gregory Harper hadn't spent years investigating financial crimes for the FBI just to let his daughter be treated like garbage by criminals in expensive clothes. Victoria opened the door herself, dressed in red silk that probably cost more than most people's rent. Her smile was sharp. Michele, darling, and Gregory. His name always came with a pause, as if she had to remind herself to include him. And little Emma. Come in, come in. The house smelled like cinnamon and pine, a professionally decorated Christmas tree dominating the foyer. Beneath it, presents wrapped in gold and silver paper formed a small mountain. Gregory counted quickly, 18 gifts visible, probably more in the back room. The Shermans always went overboard on Christmas, using presents as weapons to establish hierarchy. Uncle Greg, a voice boomed from the living room. Jordan Browning appeared, drink already in hand, though it wasn't yet 5 o'clock. Heard you finally finished paying off Michelle's debts. Guess that means you might be able to afford a real gift this year, instead of your usual dollar store specials. Gregory smiled. Oh, I brought something special this year, Jordan. Very special. The living room was full. Dennis held court by the fireplace, telling some story about a deal he'd almost closed. Tabitha perched on the arm of a leather chair. Her 2 boys, Clarence and Eric, both teenagers, sprawled on the couch, playing on their phones. A few cousins and aunts rounded out the crowd, all of them turning as Gregory's family entered. There's our Michelle, Dennis boomed. He crossed the room to hug his daughter, barely glancing at Gregory or Emma. Looking beautiful, as always. Must be all that pottery keeping you young. Hi, Dad. Mikkel's voice was small, already diminishing under her family's presence. Victoria swept Emma up in a theatrical hug that was more performance than affection. And our little Emma. My goodness. Are you growing? You must be. What, 5 now? 6, Grandma. I turned 6 in October. Emma's voice stayed level. You sent a card. Did I? Well, of course I did. Victoria set her down quickly. Now, go play with your cousins while the adults talk. But Clarence and Eric didn't acknowledge Emma. They never did. To them, she was the kid from their aunt's mistake marriage, not worth their time. Gregory guided Emma to a chair near the window, away from the crowd. You okay, sweetheart? She nodded, clutching her backpack. I'm okay, Dad. I remember the plan. That's my girl. Just wait for my signal. The next hour was a master class in passive aggression. Victoria served appetizers on crystal plates, making sure everyone saw the price tag she'd deliberately left on the imported cheeses. Dennis cornered Michelle to complain about his business, dropping hints about needing investors. He'd hit Gregory up for $50,000 last year, which Gregory had reluctantly provided, knowing he'd never see it again. Tabitha showed off her new bracelet, courtesy of Jordan's latest bonus, making sure Michelle saw it and understood what real success looked like. And through it all, nobody spoke to Emma. They stepped around her like furniture, ignored her questions, treated her like she wasn't there. Gregory watched it happen, his jaw tight but his expression calm. Let them show their true colors. Let them dig the hole deeper. At 6 o'clock, Victoria clapped her hands. Present time? Everyone to the tree. The family gathered in a semicircle as Victoria and Dennis began distributing gifts. It was a ritual Gregory had observed for 3 Christmases. Now the expensive displays, the oohs and ahs over designer labels and luxury items, the way each gift came with a story designed to highlight the Shermans' wealth and taste. Clarence got the latest gaming console. Eric received a vintage guitar. Tabitha unwrapped a handbag that cost more than Gregory's monthly salary. Michelle got a designer coat that Victoria had picked out, making sure to mention how she'd had to special order it because Michelle's taste was still developing. Jordan got scotch that was older than Gregory. The cousins and aunts received jewelry, tech, expensive bottles of wine. The pile shrank steadily, gold and silver paper, littering the floor like fallout from a wealth explosion. Emma sat in her chair by the window, backpack in her lap, watching. Gregory stood behind her, one hand on her shoulder. He could feel her breathing, steady and calm. She was ready. The pile dwindled. 5 gifts left. Then 3. Then 1. Victoria held the last present, a small box wrapped in silver. She looked around the room with theatrical confusion. Oh my! Did we miss anyone? Let me see. Clarence, Eric, Tabitha, Jordan, Michelle. She ticked off names on her fingers, her rings catching the light. Dennis. Myself. Aunt Clara. Cousin Beth. I think that's everyone. Grandma? Emma's voice was quiet but clear. What about me? The room went silent. Victoria turned, her face a mask of surprise that didn't reach her eyes. Oh, sweetheart, did we? She looked at Dennis, who shrugged with exaggerated helplessness. Did we forget Emma? Tabitha laughed, a sound like her mother's. Oh, Mom, you didn't. Victoria's lips curled into a smile that had nothing to do with warmth. She looked directly at Gregory, making sure he understood this was deliberate, then turned back to Emma with mock sympathy. Oh, darling, I'm so sorry. We must have just, well, I suppose with everything going on. She glanced at Michelle, and with your father's situation being what it is. What situation is that, Victoria? Gregory's voice cut through the room like a knife. Everyone turned. Victoria's smile widened. She'd been waiting for this. For him to lose his temper. To make a scene that would prove he was exactly what she'd always said he was. Common, crude, unsuitable. Well, you know, financial difficulties. Mikel's medical bills. We thought perhaps you couldn't afford to participate fully this year, so we didn't want to embarrass you by highlighting the disparity. The disparity. Gregory repeated the word slowly, tasting it. Between what? Between families, dear. Victoria's voice dripped condescension. Between backgrounds, between blood. She laughed then, that glass-breaking sound. Oh, come now, Gregory. Let's not pretend. We all know Emma's cheap blood. You can't expect her to keep up with. Grandma? Emma's voice interrupted, still calm, still steady. Gregory squeezed her shoulder the signal. She stood up, reaching into her backpack. I'm not mad. Victoria blinked, thrown off her script. What? I'm not mad, Grandma. Emma pulled out the snow globe, wrapped in its newspaper comics. She held it up, and Gregory watched the room take it in this cheap drugstore toy, this pathetic attempt at a present in a room full of luxury. Look what I got myself. The room fell silent, but not for the reason they expected. Gregory stepped forward, reaching into his jacket pocket. His fingers closed around the flash drive. You know what's funny about cheap blood, Victoria? It's honest. It doesn't pretend to be something it's not. It doesn't lie on tax returns. It doesn't file fraudulent insurance claims. It doesn't embezzle from business partners or cheat contractors out of their pay. Dennis's face drained of color. What are you talking about? I'm talking about 3 years of documentation. Gregory held up the flash drive. I'm a forensic accountant. Remember? It's what I do. I find financial crimes. I follow the money. And you people have been very, very busy. Victoria's smile vanished. You're making things up. This is slander. It's evidence. Gregory's voice stayed calm, almost gentle. Dennis, remember that $50,000 you borrowed from me last year? You said it was for a property investment, but it actually went to covering the money you stole from your business partner, Wilson Calhoun. You remember Wilson? The one whose son has cancer? The one you stole $200,000 from and then forced out of the partnership. Dennis took a step back. That's a lie. That's a goddamn lie. It's documented. Bank records, wire transfers, emails. All here. Gregory turned to Victoria. And Victoria, those insurance claims you filed after your break-in last year? The one where you claimed $50,000 in jewelry was stolen? Funny thing, I have photographs of you wearing that jewelry 3 months later at Tabitha's birthday party. Insurance fraud is a felony. Victoria's hand flew to her throat. To the necklace she was wearing right now, one of the pieces she claimed was stolen. Jordan. Gregory's eyes moved to Tabitha's husband, who'd gone very still. Patent attorney, right? Except you never passed the patent bar. You've been practicing without credentials for 2 years. billing clients for services you're not legally allowed to provide. That's fraud too. Also a felony. You son of a bitch, Jordan started forward. But Gregory didn't move. Threaten me in front of witnesses. Please. Add it to the pile. Gregory looked around the room, meeting each pair of eyes. I have 3 years of financial records. Tax documents, recorded conversations, photographs, email chains. I have evidence of fraud, embezzlement, false insurance claims, tax evasion, and about a dozen building code violations on this house alone. I have enough evidence to put this entire family in prison. You wouldn't. Tabitha's voice shook. Mikhail, tell him. But Mikhail was staring at her family like she was seeing them for the first time. Is it true? Dad? Mom? Is what he's saying true? It's more complicated than Dennis started. But Victoria cut him off. Mikhail, he's manipulating you. He's jealous of our success. And he's making up lies too. Stop. Michelle's shout surprised everyone, including Gregory. She turned to her mother, tears streaming down her face. Just stop. Stop lying. Stop pretending. She looked at Emma, sitting in her chair with her cheap snow globe. They forgot her on purpose. They excluded a 6-year-old child on purpose. To hurt her. To hurt us. And you think Greg is the problem? Victoria opened her mouth, but no sound came out. Gregory tucked the flash drive back into his pocket. Here's what's going to happen. Emma, Michelle, and I are leaving. You will never contact us again. You will never speak to Emma again. You will never come to our house or attempt to see us. In exchange, I won't send this evidence to the FBI, the IRS, the State Bar Association, and the Insurance Fraud Division. Everyone gets to walk away. You can't. Dennis started. I absolutely can. I've already made copies. 3 different lawyers have sealed files that will be opened if anything happens to me or my family. So here's some free advice. Take the deal. Disappear from our lives. Because if you don't, I will burn you all to the ground and watch you rot in prison. And unlike you, I don't make empty threats. He turned to Emma. Come on, sweetheart. Let's go home. Emma hopped down from her chair, clutching her snow globe. She looked at Victoria one last time. Thank you for the party, Grandma. I hope you have a nice Christmas. The kindness in those words, after everything they'd done to her, hit harder than any insult could have. Victoria actually flinched. Michelle followed them to the door, not looking back at her family. The 3 of them walked out into the cold December night, leaving behind the house full of expensive things and cheap people. As they drove away, Emma unwrapped her snow globe in the back seat. She shook it, watching the fake snow swirl around the plastic penguin. Dad? Are we really never going to see them again? Not if I can help it, sweetheart. Good. She went back to her snow globe, content. I like this present better anyway. I picked it out myself. Michelle reached across the console and took Gregory's hand. I'm sorry, she whispered. I'm so sorry I let it go on that long. It's over now. We're done with them. He squeezed her hand. We're going to have our own Christmas. Just the 3 of us. No performances, no cruelty, no cheap blood comments. Just us. Can we have pizza? Emma piped up from the back. Real Christmas people eat pizza, right? Gregory laughed, the tension finally breaking. Yeah, sweetheart. Real Christmas people definitely eat pizza. That night, in their modest house with its second-hand furniture and lived-in warmth, the Harper family had the best Christmas Eve they'd ever known. They ate pizza on the floor in front of their small, lopsided tree. Emma played with her snow globe until she fell asleep between her parents, her cheap drugstore toy clutched in her small hands. And Gregory Harper, son of a factory worker and a nurse, husband to a woman finally free of her toxic family, father to a daughter who would never again be told she wasn't good enough. He felt richer than all the Sherman stolen money could ever make him. But the story didn't end there. It never does when you corner rats. 2 days after Christmas, Gregory was in his home office when his phone rang. Unknown number. He almost didn't answer, but something made him pick up. Mr. Harper? This is Detective Nelson Stratton with the Financial Crimes Division. I'm calling about a report we received yesterday regarding the Sherman family. Anonymous tip with some very interesting documentation attached. You wouldn't know anything about that, would you? Gregory leaned back in his chair, a slow smile spreading across his face. I have no idea what you're talking about, Detective. But if someone did send you evidence of financial crimes, I certainly hope you follow up on it. That's your job, isn't it? Indeed it is, Mr. Harper. Indeed it is. A pause. For what it's worth, and this is completely off the record, whoever sent this did a very thorough job. Professional quality work. Almost like they knew exactly what they were doing. Almost like that. Yes. One more thing. The tip also included evidence of some attempts to retaliate. Emails discussing various plans to, quote, destroy Gregory Harper's career and reputation. We take conspiracy very seriously. I appreciate you letting me know, Detective. Happy New Year, Mr. Harper. Gregory hung up and sat in the quiet of his office. Through the wall, he could hear Michelle and Emma laughing at something on TV. His family, his real family. The Sherman family's downfall would be spectacular and public. Dennis's business partners would soon discover the embezzlement. Victoria would face insurance fraud charges. Jordan would be disbarred and likely prosecuted for fraud. And the IRS, well, the IRS never forgot, and they never forgave. Gregory had waited 3 years for this. 3 years of swallowing his pride, enduring their cruelty, watching them hurt the people he loved. But he'd learned patience from his father, the factory worker who taught him that the best revenge was living well. And he'd learned justice from his mother, the nurse who taught him that sometimes good people had to stand up to bad people, even when it was hard. But there was one more move to make. Gregory opened his laptop and composed an email to Wilson Calhoun, Dennis's former business partner, the one whose son had cancer, the one who'd been stolen from and ruined. In the email, Gregory attached evidence of Dennis's embezzlement, along with information on how to file a civil suit for damages. The Sherman family had assets that could be seized. Wilson's son deserved better treatment than the local clinic could provide. He hit send and closed the laptop. Dad, Emma called from the living room. Come watch. They're showing penguins. Gregory smiled and stood up. He'd spent enough time thinking about the Shermans. They weren't worth another second of his life. In the living room, Emma was bouncing on the couch, pointing at the TV where a nature documentary showed penguins waddling across ice. Michelle had her pottery wheel set up in the corner. She'd started creating again, more freely now, without her mother's critical voice in her head. This was what mattered. This small, imperfect, beautiful life they'd built. Gregory settled onto the couch, Emma immediately climbing into his lap. On the screen, a penguin slipped on the ice and tumbled down a small hill. Emma giggled, shaking her snow globe so the fake snow fell on her plastic penguin friend. Dad, she asked without looking away from the TV. Are we cheap blood? Michelle froze at her pottery wheel. Gregory felt his chest tighten, but Emma's voice held no pain, just curiosity. No, sweetheart. We're not cheap. We're priceless. He kissed the top of her head. We're the kind of people who work hard, love deeply, and don't treat others like garbage. That makes us richer than people with all the money in the world, but no kindness in their hearts. Oh, Emma thought about this. Good. I like being priceless. Me too, Em. Me too. A week later, the news broke. Local real estate developer Dennis Sherman arrested for embezzlement. His wife Victoria charged with insurance fraud. Jordan Browning disbarred pending criminal investigation. The story made the local papers, then the regional news. The Sherman estate went up for auction to pay restitution to Dennis's victims. The family's carefully constructed image shattered in spectacular fashion. Gregory didn't gloat. He didn't even watch the news coverage. He just went to work, came home to his family, and lived his life. That was the real victory, not their destruction, but his freedom from them. But there was one final encounter. A month after everything fell apart, Gregory was at the grocery store with Emma when he saw Tabitha in the frozen food aisle. She looked smaller somehow, diminished without her expensive clothes and superior attitude. Her cart held store-brand items and sale products. She saw him and froze. For a moment, they just stared at each other across the frozen pizzas. Then Emma tugged on Gregory's sleeve. Dad, can we get ice cream? The cheap kind that comes in the big tub? It tastes better than the fancy stuff Grandma used to have. It was an innocent comment, but Tabitha's face crumpled. She turned and hurried away, abandoning her cart. Gregory felt no satisfaction in her pain, just a quiet sense of justice served. She'd learned what it meant to struggle now. Maybe she'd become a better person for it. Or maybe she wouldn't. Either way, it was no longer his problem. Yeah, Em. We can get the cheap ice cream. The best things in life usually are cheap, you know. Emma grinned up at him. Like my penguin snow globe? Exactly like that. They finished shopping and drove home, where Michelle had dinner waiting spaghetti with jarred sauce, nothing fancy, but made with love. They ate together at their scratched kitchen table, talking about their days, making plans for the weekend. Emma had her snow globe on the table beside her plate, because she took it everywhere now. It had become her talisman, her reminder that she didn't need expensive things to be valuable. After dinner, while Michele gave Emma a bath, Gregory stood on their small back porch looking at the stars. His phone buzzed a text from Wilson Calhoun. Mr. Harper, I don't know how to thank you. The lawsuit is moving forward, and my attorney says we have an excellent case. The money from the settlement will cover Jamie's treatment. You saved my son's life. If there's ever anything I can do for you, anything at all, you just say the word. Gregory typed back. Take care of your son. That's all the thanks I need. He pocketed his phone and breathed in the cold night air. His life was good. Not perfect. They still struggled with bills sometimes, still had to budget carefully, still worried about the future. But they had something the Shermans never had and never would. They had each other, and they had their integrity intact. Inside, Emma laughed at something Michelle said. The sound floated through the window, pure and joyful, untainted by cruelty or malice. Gregory smiled and went back inside, closing the door on the cold and the past. Tomorrow was Saturday, and he'd promised Emma they'd go to the park if the weather held. Simple pleasures, the kind you couldn't buy, only earned through love and presence. As he climbed the stairs to tuck Emma in, he passed the small shelf where she'd placed her snow globe in a position of honor. The plastic penguin smiled up at him, forever cheerful in its perpetual snowstorm. Priceless, Gregory murmured, and meant it. The Shermans would face their trials, their scandals, their consequences. Dennis would likely see prison time. Victoria would pay massive fines and restitution. Jordan had already lost his license and faced criminal charges. Tabitha, guilty only by association and silence, would have to rebuild her life with the knowledge that she'd stood by while her family destroyed themselves and hurt innocent people. But that was their story now, not Gregory's. He'd given them the rope, but they'd tied the nooses themselves. Every fraudulent document, every stolen dollar, every cruel word to a 6-year-old child, those were their choices, and now they'd live with the consequences. Gregory Harper had played his part perfectly. The patient accountant, the quiet record keeper, the man who'd endured everything until the moment was right. Then he'd struck with precision, not in anger, but in justice, giving them exactly what they deserved, accountability. And now, with his daughter tucked safely in bed, his wife reading beside him, and his conscience clear, Gregory Harper could finally rest. Not because he'd destroyed his enemies, but because he'd protected his family and stood up for what was right. In the end, that was all that mattered. Not blood cheap or expensive, but love. The kind that fought for itself, the kind that refused to be diminished. The kind that taught a 6-year-old girl that a drugstore snow globe chosen with love was worth more than all the designer gifts in the world. That was the real gift Emma had given herself that Christmas Eve, the understanding that she was enough exactly as she was. And Gregory, in his own way, had given her something too